Good morning, participants. I'm happy to have you here today. My name is Mr. Telvin Inalibu. I'll be taking you on Model 2, Feasibility Study and Business Plan. I understand that yesterday you have done your skills, and therefore today it will be a good thing that we understand how to go about our business by doing our feasibility study and business plan. This will comprise of two sections. One of the session is feasibility study, while the other will be business plan. But in the meantime, we'll go into the first, which is feasibility study. I also understand that you have done your test and then scores are coming in. So let's quickly look at feasibility studies. In your own time or right away, you can check out what is a feasibility study, differentiate feasibility study and a business plan, and what are the reasons why you should do feasibility study. You should have all these thoughts at the back of your mind so that you have a prosperous business. While we are going to look at feasibility study, these are the outlines that we are going to be looking at. We will look at feasibility study and the feasible business. We will look at feasibility study, the importance and the shortcomings. We will also look at how to go about feasibility study. Then after we have seen how to go about feasibility study, we will then look at the components of feasibility study. Now, what is a feasibility study? Feasibility study, as you know, is an analysis. So if you have an idea, you want to know if your idea is viable. So feasibility study is an analysis of the viability of an idea. For instance, we have this class. It is a class that we are going to come up with. Before now, I'm supposed to be here. I will do my feasibility study. That what time should I get off the bed? When will I join the next available vehicle? When will I get to the place I will take the class? Should my system be ready? What data do I need? And what are the things do I need for this class to hold? If I understand that I don't have enough data to connect to Zoom, it means the class will not be viable. If I also understand that I don't have the necessary materials to have a Zoom application on the gadget, I will know that the class will not be viable. So for an idea that you have about your business, for the analysis to know that your idea is viable, it is what is feasibility study. Like you can see on your screen, it is the analysis of the viability of an idea. And this feasibility study focuses on helping answer the essential question. What is the essential question? Should we proceed with a proposed project idea? You have an idea. Now, when you do your feasibility study, it will help you to know if you are to go ahead with what the proposed project idea. Feasibility study looks at the viability of an idea with the emphasis of identifying potential problems. Every business have their potential problems, and feasibility study helps us to identify these problems. What is the main problem? And then feasibility study also looks at how to attempt to answer the one main question. What is it? Will the idea work, and should you proceed with it? You have the idea, you have seen if this idea is viable. When you know this idea is viable, the feasibility study will help you know if you should proceed with the idea and if the idea will work. What now, if you look at viability there, it is the same as what? Feasibility. It is also the same as what? Sustainable. It is also the same as possible. So you want to look at the possibility of your idea. What kind of business do you want to venture in? So feasibility study will help you know how to go about this business. It will help you answer the question, should you proceed with the proposed idea? Will it work? And should you proceed with it? Now let's look at a feasible business. How do you know if your business is feasible? One of the things you need to know, it is when the business will generate adequate cash flow and profits. You have your trade payables, your receivables, and then you need to know how the cash comes in and goes out, and then your profit. If your business does not generate adequate cash flow, if it does not generate adequate profit, then it is not yet a feasible business. A feasible business is a business that withstands risks that it will encounter. You have a feasible business, there are risks that every business encounter. But if your business cannot withstand the risks, then it's not a feasible business. Although there are different types of risks, there are risks that comes generally, like in 2020, we have the pandemic. That risk have affected a lot of businesses. Some are back to life and some stayed permanently down. That is to show how a feasible business is. Then, long term is another core thing that is an attribute of a feasible business. Will your business remain viable in the long term? It allows you to know if your business is a feasible one. Then the founders, what are the goals of the founders? Maximizing what? Wealth of stakeholders. The founders wants profit. Nobody goes into business without the interest of making profits. In fact, every business is to make profits, except for not-for-profit organizations. And even not-for-profit organizations will have to operate in what? Excess of income over expenditure. So a business that cannot meet the goals of the founder is not a what? A feasible business. Now, you should note that anybody with a business should conduct a feasibility study. If you have any business idea, you should conduct a feasibility study. Why should you conduct a feasibility study? This will allow you to determine the viability of the idea before proceeding with the development of the business. Because if you go ahead and proceed with the development without conducting a feasibility study, and then in the end, the business cannot generate you adequate cash flow, the business cannot stay in the long term, the business cannot meet the founder's goals, the business cannot generate profit, then you begin to look at your village people that they are the one doing you, but you have not conducted what? A feasibility study. Now let's look at feasibility study, the things it addresses. Feasibility study addresses things like where will the business operate? How will the business operate? You know, you have a business idea, and your business idea, it will allow you to know where and how the business will operate. That's one of the things that feasibility study addresses. For instance, I want to open a makeup store where people will come in, I'll do makeup for them, people who have weddings and all that. And I want to situate the business. Where will I situate such a business? If I take it to a village far away, let's say 200 kilometers from the outskirts of the town, there are possibilities that my business will not generate me adequate profit and cash flow because I will not have customers walking in. Then how will it operate? So you need to know these things because These are the kind of things that feasibility study addresses. Then feasibility study also provide in-depth details about the business and determine how it can succeed. It serves as a valuable tool for developing a winning business plan. When you have done your feasibility study, it allows you to develop a winning business plan because the details that you have from your feasibility study will be extracted into your business plan. Feasibility study can be used in many ways, but the first major thing that feasibility study can be used on is what? Proposed business ventures. Proposed business ventures. When you have an idea, you go into feasibility study so that you can conduct a proper business. But apart from that, there are other things that we can use feasibility studies for. We shall look at it in the subsequent slides. Objectives of feasibility study. One of the objectives of feasibility study is raise funding. No business that you want to start that does not require funding. So your feasibility study will help you to know how to raise what? Funds for your business. It will also satisfy requirements of grant awarding bodies. NGOs come up and want to support businesses, either small scale, medium scale, or large scale. But your feasibility study of this proposed business idea was not a good one, and it does not satisfy their requirement because they too want to see how you are going to generate adequate cash flow and profit and how you're going to maximize stakeholders' equity. Now, if your feasibility study that you have done will satisfy the requirement of grant awarding bodies, then your business is viable. Another objective is to satisfy the directors that a project is viable. For instance, if I'm a director of a business and then I go into without doing a feasibility study, I will not know if my business is what? Viable. So for me to know if my business is viable, I will have to do a feasibility study so that my directors will know that the project is viable. Then another objective is to determine the optimum facility mix to maximize revenue. What is your revenue? Your sales is your revenue. Your income is your revenue. So what income do you have? What are the things do you need to do so that your revenue will be maximized? These are one of the objectives of feasibility study. Another objective is to ensure that all parties agree on the key element of a project. Every project has key elements, but feasibility study objectives will also allow us to ensure that all parties agree. And the objective also forms the basis of initial market and project planning. Another objective, in some cases, provide the argument for business closure. You have your business, you want to close it down, you need feasibility study to know. And it also for the change of application and planning of what? Appeals. So these are the objectives of feasibility study. The end result should be statement of revenue and expenditure for the first 5 years of project, clearly showing the links between the market and the forecast. From this statement will then follow balance sheet, cash flow forecast, and estimates of project value upon completion. Now, every feasibility study that you do has its shortcomings. Let's look at the shortcomings of feasibility studies. One of it is overestimated market potential. You have your business, and then you feel like this business is going to be viable because there are people who are in need of such services or product. When you do that without noticing the actual market potential, and you overestimate, your feasibility study will now be lacking because you have overestimated the market potential. Another shortcoming is underestimated competition. You are going into the business. You have seen those who are into the business before you, and then you think, okay, you will be the best in the business without noticing their network, their customer network, their suppliers, how they have been able to supply them, whether on credit or whether in cash or by bank, or you don't know if they are doing their deals on contract. And then you feel your competitors will not be able to compete with you because you have a winning business plan or a good feasibility study. This is another shortcoming of the study. Then planned capacities. The capacity that you plan for your proposed idea may not be compatible with the market size. For instance, you want to start selling a particular product, and then the market size of your product may not be that big, and you want to start with 5,000 units of your product, and these 5,000 units, your market size can only get up to 1,000 in a year, but you have produced 5,000 and it expires in 10 months. So if you do that, sometimes it will make your feasibility study to have a shortcoming. So when you are planning your market size, your capacities should always be compatible. Another shortcoming is underestimated importance of management and manpower skills. These I always tell people, when you are doing your feasibility study, don't think you can bring anybody into the business without them having an idea. For instance, you want to start a financial service where you lend equity and loans to people who are about to start business or people who have existing business. And then your anchor person in the business, one of your managers that you invite to manage the business, does not have any prior knowledge about financial services, interest on loans, and how the taxes are being paid. It is going to allow the business to crumble in a very short time. So it is important that you take key note on your management and manpower skills. If that is underestimated, then your feasibility study will have a shortcoming. Another shortcoming is market projection based on insufficient data. Because you see children hawking water on the street, you think you go into the business, you will do better, without asking them how much is their inflow, how much is their cash flow, how much profit do you know? You don't have the accurate data. And then you end up going into this business because you feel it's just sachet water, you can get your supplier anywhere, you can get the bucket to sell, and it's easy to go into. But in the end, you see that your business is no longer viable because your market projection is based on insufficient data. Another shortcoming is overestimated availability of infrastructure and other local services. When you are doing your feasibility study, you just write in the feasibility study, okay, my business will operate in Abuja, it will be in the business district area, I will have to rent a place in the plaza, but you don't know if these things are available. The key things that you need to thrive your business, those are the infrastructure. You don't know how available they are. And other local services. Are you going into bakery? Are you going into confectionaries or pastries? When you go into such business, your machines that you are going to use, are you going to use an automated oven or a local oven? If you are using an automated oven, do you have people who can service these machines? Do you have adequate power supply for these automated ovens? Do you have people who know how to operate these automated ovens? So these local services and infrastructure, if you overestimate it, it's going to have problem with you. And also their availability. Where can you buy from? Do you just walk into the market and ask them for an automated oven? Will they have it? Or when you do your data and they tell you it is available on the internet, when you begin to search to see if you can buy, and then it is not available, you begin to have problems. And that is another shortcoming of feasibility study. Now let's look at the importance. Now, before we go forward, I would like you to know that the importance outweighs the shortcomings. And that is why it is beautiful. From the beginning, I told you that you should note, for anybody that has a business idea, must conduct a feasibility study. Now, let's look at the importance of feasibility study. The information you gather and present in your feasibility study will help you to what? List in details all the things you need to make the business work. You have a business. What and what will make the business work? The feasibility study will help you to list them in details. The feasibility study, that's the information that you gather, will also help you identify logistical and other business-related problems, and not just the problem, also the solutions. It will also help you develop marketing strategies to convince a bank or investor that your business is worth considering as an investment. You have this business that you want to do, the proposed business idea. Remember, we told you that feasibility study is the analysis of the viability of an idea. If your idea is viable, when the bank sees it, they'll want to invest in it. When an investor sees it, they'll want to invest in it. So, if your business is not considered an investment, nobody will want to invest in it. Nobody will want to give you loans. Why? Because it is not viable. And remember, in our previous slides, we talked about where a business is viable. We say such business will what? Generate adequate cash flow. We say such business will generate profit. We say such business will stay in a long term. We say such business will what? Meet the founder's goals. So such kind of business where it is viable, for instance, a bank is giving you a loan of 10 million naira with an amortization of 7 years. If your business cannot stay long term, then how do you pay off these loans? So they will have to know. That is why it is important for us to do a feasibility study. And it also serves as a foundation for developing your business plan. The information that you have gathered and present in your feasibility study, when you look at them, it's easy for you to extract and put in your what? In your business plan. So these are the importance of feasibility studies. How can we go about a feasibility study? Before you begin writing your feasibility study, one of the things that you need to do is to identify how, where, and to whom you intend to sell a service or product. You want to go into business and then you want to render services. How will you render this service? Where will you render this service? And to whom do you intend to render this service? You have a product that you want to produce, let's say organic cream or organic drink. How do you intend to sell this what? Organic drink or organic cream? Where do you intend to sell this organic cream or organic drink? And to whom do you intend to sell this what? Organic drink or organic cream? There's no way you will be excited to sell a cream for my 82-year-old grandmother in the village. Your feasibility study will also let you know that this thing will not be marketable for such a person. Now, I want to sell drinks and it has plenty of sugar. I should know that whom do I intend to sell this drink? It has to be children between ages 0 to maybe 15, because people older than that will be warned about diabetes, will be warned about high sugar level and all that. So your business plan, your feasibility study will help you to know about this and how to identify it. Your feasibility study will also assess your competition. Who and who are into the same business with you? So it will help you to identify your what? Your competition. So you assess it before going into your feasibility study. Before going into your feasibility study, another thing you need to do is to figure out how much money you need to start your business. Not just start your business, but to keep it running until it is established. When you have your business, remember we say that a feasible business is one where what? It stays in a long term. It is viable in a long term. If you don't have the capital to keep it running until it is established, when you have a business, your first year, that business will not be established. So when it becomes established, it will take time. And in taking time to be established, you need to know how much you need to keep that business running until it is established. So when you want to begin writing your feasibility study, these three things are key things that you need to know before you begin your feasibility study. Another thing about feasibility study is a pre-feasibility study. Pre, in the suffix there, in the prefix there is what? Begin, before. Pre means what? Before. And a pre-feasibility study may be conducted first to help sort out relevant scenarios. Let us look at, for instance, what are these relevant scenarios? You know you need capital. Where you want to sell this your product, or where you want to sell this your services, to whom and how. Those are relevant scenarios. So when you do a pre-feasibility study, it will help you sort out these kind of scenarios. And when you do a pre-feasibility study, before you proceed with a full-blown feasibility study, you may want to do that pre-feasibility analysis of your own. Why do you need to do that? Because if you find out earlier on that the proposed business idea is not feasible, it will save you time and money. And if the findings lead you to proceed with a feasibility study, your work may have resolved some basic issues. So you see why you need to do a pre-feasibility study. When you do it, you know that, okay, this business is not viable. I will no longer do it. Or when you do it and you see that, this business is viable, then you can proceed with what? A full-blown feasibility study. Also, you should note that a consultant may help you with a pre-feasibility study. But don't just go and say, Oga consultant, please help me with feasibility study. Take money. When you are through, let me know. Don't do that. You need to be part of it. You should be involved. Why should you be involved? Because it is an opportunity for you to understand the issues of business development. So for every business that you want to do, you need to do a pre-feasibility study before you begin a full-blown feasibility study. When we look at the outline, I told you that we are going to look at components of feasibility study. Now, let's look at components of feasibility study. One of the components is description of the business. In this description, the product or service to be offered and how they will be delivered. That will be your description of the business. Something like, let's say your business is, let me use Ebere. Ebere Limited is an organic cream producing company. You know, that is a description of your business. As simple as that. Let it not be too bulky, so that everybody who picks up your feasibility study can understand what you're about to do. Then, after you have done your description of business, you then go into your market feasibility. In your market feasibility, it describes the industry, current market, anticipated future market potential, your competition, your sales projection, and your potential buyers. I will take that again. The market feasibility that you will do, it will include description of the industry. What kind of industry are you going into? Sales of water. You have to describe how that industry is. How many years have sales of water started? When did it begin? What happens in the sales of sachet water, the production, and also all that. Then the current market. How much is the sachet water selling? And what are they generating? Is it that the current sachet water market makes up to 1 billion naira? And what is the anticipated? What is the growth rate? Is it at 10% or at 20%? If it's at 10%, you know that by next year, the sachet water market will be 1.1 billion. Then you need to know your competition. Who are there to carry out this kind of business? For instance, if you are selling sachet water, you know that one of your competitions are street hawkers. And then people who have it in their refrigerators. They are all what? Part of your competition. You will identify that in your market feasibility study. Then sales projection. How many are you buying and how many do you think can sell in a day and in a month, weeks, and then, of course, annual. Then potential buyers. For instance, I'm using sachet water as an example. In Nigeria, you know that potential buyers of sachet water constitute about 90% of the people, of the populace, almost 90%. Everybody knows where you can get pure water from around. So your potential buyers, you can begin to list them, and that to be contained in your market feasibility. Then you have technical feasibility. Your kind of business. This will tell you details of how you will deliver a product or service. That is, materials that you will need, the labor, transportation, where your business will be located, the technology needed. All these are what? Your technical feasibility. Then financial feasibility. Remember, we talked about you need the money to start, the money that you need to start your business, and the one that will keep it running until it is established. So you need to know, project how much startup capital is needed. The source of capital, where are you getting it from? Is it from your savings? Is it from loans that you are going to take? Is it soft loan from your family? So you need to know source of what? Capital. And also returns on investment. I want to invest in your business. I will need to know how much is my return on investment, the share profits, the interest on my capital, and then of course the interest on the drawings that I'm going to take out at a particular time. Then after your financial feasibility, the next thing that you are going to do in the component of feasibility study is your organizational feasibility. This is the corporate structure, the managers, the directors, the founders. These are the persons that constitute the organizational feasibility. And you need to put their professional background. I give you an instance. If you want to go into financial services, you want to be giving people loans where they will be returning with interest. You cannot go and bring somebody with a background that is not in financial services. You go and bring somebody from the music industry to come and manage financial services, it won't work. So your organizational feasibility study as a component will contain that. Then you bring in your conclusion. In your conclusion, you will discuss how the business can what? Succeed. But when you are doing your conclusion on how the business can succeed, make sure that your data will what? Be very true. Because if you are not honest with your data and in your assessment, your investors will also look at data from elsewhere and will question your conclusion if your conclusions are unrealistic. So in feasibility study, these are what? The components. Description of the business, the market feasibility, technical feasibility, financial feasibility, organizational feasibility, and then your what? Your conclusion. All 6 of them are the components of what? Feasibility study. Now let's look at market analysis. Before that, let's go back to the slide. Your description of business, I already told you how you can do it. So that is not a key, a thing that one needs to bother about. So we'll look at market analysis, technical analysis, financial analysis, and then what? Organizational analysis in the subsequent slides. Now, market analysis. From the market study, the following should be known. What are your target population? You need to know that as part of your market feasibility. Market segmentation. Remember when we said before going into feasibility study, you need to identify where, how, and whom you intend to sell your service or product. So in your market segmentation, what gender are you going to sell this to? We gave instance of organic cream. If you are producing organic cream, you know that the gender that will purchase much of this organic cream are what? The female gender. Then what class will buy this organic cream? And then of course the age group. You will not be saying you want to sell that to the age group of between 60 to 80 years. That will constitute a little of your what? Of your market segmentation in those who are interested in organic cream. So another thing that it will show is your target market segment strategy. It will also show your competitor analysis. How many of them? Your market analysis will also show your competition and buying patterns. What is your strength? Is it that in your area nobody is doing this kind of business? What are your weaknesses? Is it that government loans are not readily available or power supply are not readily available for effective production? What are your opportunities? Is it that in this area nobody have such product or your product is one of a kind? Then of course the challenges that you face. So all this should be shown in your what? Your market analysis. Now let's go into the next slide and look at your what? Technical analysis. Remember when we talked about where you want to what? Sell or what? Where you want to sell your service or product. Location as the first one there is the first thing you need to put down in your technical analysis. Central Business District of Abuja. for instance. Then, after that, your fixed assets and equipment. What and what are your fixed assets and equipment in this your service that you want to sell or product that you want to sell? If you want to render a services for training, for instance, of course, you know that you need a projector, you need a projector screen, you need a laptop, you need a projector stand. So these forms your what? Some of your fixed assets and equipment. So like in the blue line here, you are going to write how many do you need? That's serial number. How many do you? Serial number 1. The type of what fixed assets and equipment that you need. What type do you need? How many? Number required. How many of them do you need? I'm going into training service. How many of the laptops do I need? How many of the projectors do I need? So when you put under the type, you put the number. Then how much is each of them sold? The laptop may cost me 100,000 and I need 2 of them. So total will be what? 200,000. I will now go on to say how many projectors do I need? How much is a projector? 200,000. How many do I need? I need 2 of them. Total 400,000. So you will now know how much is the cost of your what? Fixed assets and your what? Your equipment. Supplier and suppliers. You need to know who is going to be supplying you all these your things that you need to start up your business. After you have written your supplier, then your personnel plan. Who are those who are going to be the ones to drive this your business for you? 1, a manager. What qualification and experience? How many of them do you need in that position? How much are you willing to pay them? And in 12 months, how much will the money be? That is how you are going to place it in your personnel plan. Number 2, which other positions do you need? A marketer. What qualification should the marketer have? HND, BSc, MSc. How many do you need? 5. How much salary per month? 50,000. How much are you going to pay them per month? I'm going to pay 600 annually. Sorry, per month is 50, annually 600,000. So you have your total there. Then your raw materials. Number 1, what are your raw materials? You want to produce sachet water. I need the sachet, the leather bags. I need water tank. So a full tank, how much will it cost me for 2 months? How much will this leather quantity cost me for 2 months? You have to put all that down under your raw materials. Then the sources of raw materials, are they local or foreign? So when you put all this down properly, you will have your full-blown technical analysis. And your technical analysis extraction is what is going to help you to have your financial analysis. I'll be going back and forth. I will go to the technical analysis and then I'll come back to the financial analysis so that you see some of these things, that it is an extraction of your technical analysis. If you look at under project investment cost, you will see number 1, fixed assets and what? Equipment, and then you see total cost. Let's go to the previous slide and see under fixed assets and equipment. You see after location, you have fixed assets and equipment. When you have your total there, the number that you require, you will then bring it into your fixed assets and equipment. You write it down and then you write your what? Total cost. You see where you have your what? Your raw materials. You come and bring them down here under your raw materials for 2 months, the total. You see where you have your personnel plan, how much you are going to pay them salaries, But for here, you are going to put for what? 3 months. The salaries and wages you are going to pay for 3 months. Then your pre-operational what? Expenses. That is what most of you may call miscellaneous and all that. So the total will now give you the total cost that you need for your project. Then salaries projection for 1 year. That will be part of your financial what? Analysis. And you remember that if you look at your personnel plan, you will see in the end of the blue line there, after serial number, position, qualification and experience, number and position, salary slash amount, you have your annual salary there. That will now come under your sales. You see your sales projection there. Now, in your sales projection for 1 year, you will have what are the service product you are going to provide, the number of garments, price per unit, total sales, and what? Your annual sales. So these are the components of your financial what? Analysis. Then remember we talked about organizational analysis. Now it will involve questions such as whether the system has enough support to be implemented successfully, whether it brings an excessive amount of change, and whether the organization is changing too rapidly to absorb it. So you need to put in your components of feasibility study, your organizational analysis. So we have come to the end of feasibility study. We have few questions there like you can see on your screen. Feel free to attempt it and share with us in the chat box. Number one, we said, should every business have a feasibility study? That's number one. Number two, we say, what is the relevance and importance of feasibility plan? From the lesson, which aspect of feasibility study can you prepare? Can you prepare the organizational analysis? Can you prepare the technical analysis? Can you prepare the financial analysis? So which aspects can you prepare? Then for which aspect would you require the help of others? So these questions are relevant to review what we have studied. And it is okay for you to chat us in the box, and so that we can know where to come in with questions and then answers. So for now, we'll take a break, and after this, we'll join in the second section, which will be business plan. Thank you very much. I will see you and see in your chat box what you have as what you can prepare, and if we can do a feasibility study on all kind of business, and as you will see in the questions. I will leave it here so that you can see. Engineer Ada, you have questions for us? Ebere, do you have questions for us before we go into the second session? Now we are in session 2, business plan. Like we said before, your feasibility study will help you write a winning business plan. Your feasibility study will help you write a winning business plan. Now, when you have done all your feasibility study, you have inserted your business description, you have inserted your organizational analysis, your market analysis, your financial analysis, and your technical analysis. You can extract them into your business plan. And your business plan, the components they include one of them is your executive summary, and you have your business description, mission statement, the business concept, strategy, and value proposition, the market summary and competition, your competitive advantage, your SWOT, and the risk. SWOT there is an acronym. It stands for strength, weakness, opportunities, and threat. Then your resource planning and team. And then, of course, your financial projection. Now we are going to look at each of them, starting from the executive summary. Now, in your executive summary, it will entail the goals, the team, the ideas, the strategy, your performance, your plan, and it's usually more like the summary of all you have in your business plan. So your executive summary is going to describe where your business will be located, which is part of your technical analysis. It's going to talk about the current market and also how you are going to explore the market. So when you have all these details, it's going to be entailed in your executive summary. Now, after your executive summary, you describe your business. After describing your business, then you also give the mission statement. Remember when we say most of the things you have in your business plan are the extractions of your feasibility study. If you remember where we talked about the components of feasibility study, one of the first components is what? Business description. So when you have done your business description, it's easy for you to bring it into your business plan as your what? Your business description. Now, like I told you before, in describing your business, you clearly state your company's long-term goals or your long-term mission. But I told you, try to use the words that will help direct the growth of your company, but be concise as possible. Not going writing too many things, but you write what will be focused on your business, the long-term mission of the what, the company. Then your business concept, strategy, and value proposition. You summarize the key technology, the concept or strategy in which your business is based. Now, this will allow you to understand how your business will what be a viable one, and also be a winning business plan for your investors and grant awarding bodies. So when you are writing your business plan and you come to your basic concept, the strategy and value proposition, you summarize the key technology, the concept which your business is based, and strategy on which your business is based. Then your market summary and competition. Summarize your market in the past. How much have this industry that you are trying to start a business in have been doing in the market? Then the present. How much is the present market value and what will be the future market value? You have to summarize that. Then you review those changes in market shares, leadership, players, who are the key people in this business, the market shifts, what are the changes that have been in the market, the costs, pricing, or the competition that provide the opportunity for your company's success. Competitive advantage. What do you have that your competitors may not have? You can see that when you want to do your business, in this area that you are doing your business, supposing you are the only one selling there, that is one competitive advantage. But then another person can begin to sell in that same area. But it will be a good competitive advantage if they are unable to sell what you are selling. If you all know the story of Coca-Cola, people always say the recipe they use in making Coca-Cola, nobody knows the recipe. So that is one competitive advantage. Till today, Coca-Cola is way ahead, one of the soda that sells higher than every other soda in the world. So that is a competitive advantage. And you should note that when you have a unique resources and core competence that is difficult to replicate or imitate, it becomes your competitive advantage. And another competitive advantage is adaptation and flexibility. How are you going to adapt to the environment? When the political factor comes in, the economic factor, the social culture factor, the technological factor, the environmental factor, the legal factor, when that comes in, will you be able to adapt? Are you flexible enough to allow your business thrive, to and fro, up and down in every angle? So this is a competitive advantage. Where your competitors are not able to thrive, you are still thriving. So every business will require competitive advantage. Then SWOT. Like I told you, SWOT here is an abbreviation for S stand for strength, W stand for weakness, O stand for opportunities, and T is the threat. What is your strength in this business? You identify that. What is the weakness You identify that. What are your opportunities? Is nobody selling this product? Then you are the first. That's a great opportunity. And then is it that there are increase in customers that the other competitors are unable to reach? You have another opportunity. Then the threat. What are the things that the business are going to face? What are the threats that the business is going to face? So you have your what? Your SWOT analysis. Then the risk. When you identify the risks that the business will face, you try as much as possible to find how these risks can be minimized or how they can be addressed. So you summarize the risks of the proposed project and how they will be addressed. Resource planning. The technology that you are to use, the finances, distribution, promotion, products, services. All these will be part of your resource planning. What technology are you going to use? What finances? Because this constitutes all the things that you need for your business. So you need to put in the technology, the finances, the distribution, how you are going to do all this, the promotion. What is a promotion? Here we are looking at floating and publicity. How do you get more people to know about this? Then products that you're selling, then the services. All this will constitute your resource planning. Then the team, the CEO, you list CEOs and key management by name. Who are the CEOs of this business? Engineer Daoke, Mr. Telvin Inalegu, they are the CEOs of this business. So what are our previous accomplishments to show that we are people of record of success? We are going into financial service. Is Engineer Daoke and I, are we chartered accountants? Were we in the banking sector? Or were we in other financial institutions before? Do we understand CBN regulations? Do we understand BOFIA? So all these acts, when we know all that, then people will know that we are people of what? Success. Then we summarize their number of years of experience in the field. 5 years in banking, 10 years in banking, so that whoever sees the profile, they will know that this business is going to thrive well and be a viable one. Then financial projection. You need to outline a high level of financial plan that defines your financial model and pricing assumptions. Now, for every business plan, this is how the table of contents looks like. 1, executive summary. 2, company description, where you have company description, product and service description, your market plan, SWOT analysis, competitors data collection, competitive analysis, marketing expenses strategy, pricing strategy, distribution channel assessment, then your operational plan and risk analysis, then your management and organization. We talked about the team, so that's part of your management. Then organization chart, then of course your financial plan, and then the appendices. So we'll look forward into our financial plan. One of the major things is cash flow forecast. Remember when we were talking about viability of a business that is viable? We said that for a business to be viable, it should be the one that generates adequate cash flow and profit. So let's look at cash flow forecast. What is cash flow? The cash flow records money flowing in and out of the business. Your income and of course your expenditure. How much comes in and how much goes out of the business. So that is included in your cash flow forecast. Why do you need to do cash flow forecast? Because it will show your investors you are profitable. It will identify areas where the company could improve and identify potential problems. It will show your investors you are efficient. And also to show customers and suppliers you will still be around next year. Remember, we say a viable business is the one that is viable in the long term. So for every viable business that you do, you need to show that you still be around next year. Cash flow forecast assumptions. Projections must be tied to valid and logical assumptions. The assumptions need to be consistent with the business plan. The financial projection need to be consistent with the assumptions and be thorough on all project costs. Well, there is no standard format for this type of business. Now look at some of these definitions. Income, the money that has come into the business, and they include initial capital, that is the money to start a business. Also, your money received from sales of product or services offered. Money received from loans. Then your savings is part of your incomes. The money received from the sale of fixed assets. These are part of the money that has come into the business, and they are income. Then expenditure. Any money that is spent during the normal activity of the business. They can include payment for expenses, e.g. wages or salary, petrol, payment for purchases, stock for resale, purchase of fixed assets, generators, fan, all those kind of things that you need in your organization. Now, this is the layout for your cash flow forecast. You have sales, all the sales you did, you put them down. The loans you took, you put them down. That will be your your income. You have the total. It could be either in months, weeks, or days. This is how your income layout is. Now, we said the first section records money that comes into the business. You see the heading there, which is income. Then money gained through sale of goods. That's what sales is. Then loan, money received from third party, bank, but it will require repayment plus interest. Then the total flow of income from the business. That is what all these means. So these are major source of income. Then your expenditure, purchases, the stock that you bought for resale, the wages, the people that you paid. Those are part of expenditure. There are other expenditures too. So when you have that put together, let's look at this. For instance, you have your sales. You have 600 naira sales. You took a loan of 1,000, total income 1,600. Your purchases, stock that you purchased for resale, is 800, and you paid 400. So your expenditure is 1,200. In February, you sold 1,000. You did not take any loan. Total income was 1,000. Expenditure in February, 500 naira purchase, 500 naira wages. So you see that in February, you have a difference in your income and expenditure account. So the final section is where the calculations are made. The business needs to see if there's been a greater outflow than inflow of money. The opening balance is part of the final section. The closing balance is also part of it. Then your inflow and outflow is total income minus total expenditure. So your closing balance is the opening balance, add total of inflow and the outflow. Now look at what we have in January. 300 is the opening balance. Total income 16, total expenditure 12. Total inflow and outflow becomes what? 400, which is what? Total income 1,600 minus 1,200. So your inflow outflow becomes 400. Closing balance is your opening balance plus 400, which gives you what? 700. And that 700 becomes your opening balance in February, which is what? 700. Thank you so much, participants. This is the end of Module 2, Feasibility Study and Business Plan. We are open to taking your questions before we leave. So, questions and contribution, please. Questions and contribution. You can unmute yourselves so that you can ask questions where you need clarification. Salawa Dixon, you have any question? Salawana Dixon, you can unmute yourself so that you ask your question.
Unmute. I can't understand anything in this class, like seriously.
I can't hear you, Salawana Dixon. Okay, you can unmute yourself, Engineer Daoke.
Let's see. Yeah, let's see.
Unmute, Engineer Daoke. You can unmute. You can unmute and ask your questions. Okay, why is the repayment for loan not in the expense column since the loan is in the income? That is a Genobi Nkechi. Because the repayment of loan varies. Sometimes it may be 7%, it may be 9%. So the amortization varies with different loan giving bodies. So if we decide to put the amortization cash flow for a particular one and then you stick to that, it may differ. And that is why we say most times you should work with a consultant so that in your business plan, they can actually draft out the amortization in the repayment of loan. I don't know if that answers your questions, Ejenobi Nkechi.
Yes, yes, thank you.
And also, you should know that repayment of loan is not an expenditure, because it is expenditure will have to be annual, the one you do in a particular month or in a particular year. So you don't bring it in, because sometimes people may default and then they can also give you a pause. So the moratorium of the loan could be after 2 years. So we cannot specifically say it have to be in the first year which you took the loan. It could be after 1 year, then they will say, okay, the moratorium will be 7 years. So after 1 year, then you begin to pay. Ada, okay, you have not been able to unmute. I think you've been asked to unmute. Others can unmute. I see that you're on mute
Okay,
now.
thank you, sir.
Yes, we can hear you, Engineer Ada, okay? If you cannot unmute, you can type your question in the chat, then we'll respond to it. And if there are no further questions, I would like to thank you for joining us at CDRUM. And then we look forward to seeing you at the top with excellent businesses. Thank you very much for joining us. I remain Telvin Inalibu. Enjoy the rest of your day.